This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. When the Callisto Protocol was released late last year, it was met with negative to mixed reception. Critically, the game did not do well. We later found out that it sold poorly as well, too. And then if you were a PC gamer, there were a lot of issues that came with that release that honestly should have been a lot better. Excluding the PC-related issues, I think the game was a bit overhated. The biggest thing working both for and against it was that it had some of the very same talent behind the original Dead Space. And with Callisto being a new sci-fi horror title, this meant that even if it released in a better state, I don't think it stood a chance with the expectations set by what people wanted, and then what was able to be delivered here. Callisto isn't Dead Space, nor is it really trying to be exactly that game. There are some similarities for sure, but this is very much its own thing. At the same time, it is worth stating that is the Callisto Protocol better than the original Dead Space? No, not at all. But does this mean that Callisto is a bad game? No, and it is important to point out too that just because a new title is not as good as the prior effort doesn't by default make it a bad game. But in our age of gaming and games media, you either have the best game ever or a game is just crap. Sadly, we do not have room for the in-between, and I think Callisto does land somewhere in between, with at least for me leaning a bit more in the good category. And I do think that this is something that if you passed it by the first time around, you should consider maybe giving it a try sometime soon, especially if you pay for PS Plus. The Callisto Protocol, from its story to its gameplay, delivers a solid experience. The story here is not one that has overlong cutscenes or a considerable amount of character development for each of the players. The cast is pretty small, and overall I like that, along with really enjoying its simple yet mostly well-executed approach to its narrative. In a way, the approach to its narrative sort of reminds me how older titles would go about it. What I mean by this is that the game is more plot-driven than character-driven. Now, having said that, there is enough character moments sprinkled throughout to make Jacob's journey enjoyable. Jacob is also a character that I liked right away, and as the story went along, I naturally found myself getting more and more attached to him. He is an everyman of sorts and gets thrown into this situation that is truly terrifying. For example, at the start, your ship gets damaged. You crash land on the planet you just picked up a delivery from, and right when you think you are about to be saved, you are thrown into the prison with the people responsible for damaging your ship. No matter what Jacob says, he is ignored and needs to just face what is coming at him. Without getting into spoilers, there are moments throughout the narrative where we see the type of man that Jacob is, or rather chooses to be. This isn't done through long monologues, but rather through his actions, which is why the narrative mostly succeeds in this area because of how this is done and it's handled with those character moments. My issues with the main ending and DLC ending are why I say that the narrative mostly succeeds. But again, Callisto tilts more in the good rather than bad territory. The Callisto Protocol does go for that minimalist HUD, kind of like how it was done in Dead Space, where all of your meters and information are provided on your character. There aren't even objective markers here either, so you can really just take in the game without having all that potential clutter. This is one of those rare instances where the high level of detail from the graphics greatly enhances the experience along with the atmosphere. My next comment might seem like a bit of an odd one, but outside of some moments, the Callisto Protocol really isn't a scary game. Now, in fairness, I generally do not find games, even scary ones, that scary. What I look for is that if it can deliver on atmosphere and tension. Callisto does a good job of keeping you on your toes. Much of this comes from the great use of shadows, music, and even moments of no music where the game just relies on environmental sounds. Something else I also like is that Callisto is a linear experience. Give me something focused and to the point. I love long RPGs and exploring open worlds, but I miss linear games that can be finished in 10 or less hours. There is room for exploration, and you'll want to seek out all the additional resources and side rooms to give you the best fighting chance. but since you do not have an objective marker and the HUD is very minimal, there are times where I went down a path and it ended up being the main path and not the side path that I thought it was. And there are times where it locks you out of being able to go back. In these instances, this lack of information can be annoying. Sure, a quick reload of a save can correct this, but it can also take you out of the moment too. Just always be cautious and make good use of that autosave feature, because each one creates a new checkpoint. For at least half of the game, the combat is more melee first, gun second type of a thing. You'll have ammo for sure, but it'll just seem like you have just enough to supplement your melee attacks, rather than being a full-on shooter. The melee is a system of strikes, dodges, and then making use of your snap aim feature. For much of the combat at the start, you just have your baton. I never got tired of hitting an enemy in this game. You can really feel each one of your hits, like there's some serious weight behind each of your attacks. The dodging system is an interesting one too. Instead of a dodge button, it's all done with the left stick. Flick the stick either left or right as an enemy is about to hit you, and you'll move right out of the way. If an enemy is going to try and land a combo, then you need to flick the stick in the opposite direction from your first dodge. For example, if an enemy tries to hit you with their first hit of a 2-hit combo, and you dodge to the left, then you need to follow up with the second hit by dodging to the right. The evading has a pretty cool flow to it, and it can make you feel like an action movie star as you bob and weave from enemy attacks. There's some really nice appreciated details as well, so if your strike ends up breaking off an enemy's arm, then their attacks to you will be greatly reduced. For example, it appears that they can do less combo-like attacks since they only have access to one arm. I also find it amusing that sometimes an enemy will continue to attack you even if they don't have a head as well. Once you start getting access to guns, you can pull off that snap aim. As you damage an enemy, an icon will pop up, and if you can quickly pull out your gun, you'll snap to that part of the enemy's body, and you get a few shots in. This is really useful as it makes quick work of many foes, and lets you conserve on ammo as well. Guns play a bigger part in the second half of the game, which it seems like the developers just want to throw more new guns at the player at this time. Combat remains fun, and especially satisfying with all the over-the-top violence. There's even an upgrade system here from all the credits you find. Now, like I said at the start, I was a fan of the Callisto protocol when it came out. Overall, I had a great time with it, and it's one that I'm having a blast right now, and honestly even enjoying more my second time through. Since the release, there have been a bunch of updates, and generally the game feels smoother than when I played it. One big thing is the balancing. The normal difficulty felt off the first time I played it, and not properly balanced to what you would expect for that mode. Honestly, it makes me want to try it out on hard because of how it is balanced here. Callisto just feels smoother than it did, and I greatly appreciate that. Personally, I think this is a killer game to check out if you have PS Plus, especially for October. Based on the sales, this is one that sadly got passed over, and I think much of the poor critical reception played a role in this. And again, this is a shame considering how much good is here too. Plus, you can often find this on sale even if you're not a PS Plus member, along with all the Season Pass content being out too, especially if you're looking for more. There's plenty of areas that I didn't get a chance to touch on in this video, like the fun Kinesis ability that is pretty much lifted right from Dead Space, and it's just as fun to use here, along with how the pacing is done in this game, especially at the start. Callisto gets you in, invested, and gets you into the gameplay rather quickly. I also appreciate some of the quality of life upgrades that were added, like being able to skip cutscenes. The Callisto Protocol is a flawed yet underrated title. It is one that I would have loved to see a sequel for, but I don't know if that will ever happen now. But either way, at least we have this one. Give it a try, see what you think, you might be surprised and have a good time. Are you planning on playing Callisto this month? If you've started it, what are your thoughts on it so far? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.